was not named after a comic strip character. Oh, boy. Oh, I'll tell you. Yellow Kid Weil was named Yellow Kid Weil because Yellow Kid Weil always wore magnificent imported French yellow kid gloves. These were his trademark. He also had fawn-colored spats. He rarely fleeced the victim unless he was in full afternoon morning dress. As a matter of fact, and that's spelled with a U. He had magnificent style, and the Yellow Kid gloves were particularly Chicago. Had nothing to do with a comic strip of the same name. But nevertheless, getting back to this, there's going to be a confession tonight. Speaking of confessions, this is WOR AM and FM New York. A very sick thing. But there is going to be something which I don't know whether I should tell this or not, you know. All right, I will tell you this at the beginning of the beginning. Out of our memory, you can drag almost anything that happens in the world today. Injustices, biases, sudden lurkings in the dark, bumpings, movements that shouldn't be, magnanimous gestures. Each one of us, I have a belief that any human being can understand the motives and the attitudes of every other human being in any situation if he is ever really honest. If he is ever truly honest about himself, primarily. Well, I'm going to give you something. Tell the kids to go in the next room, will you? I can't have kids tonight. No, seriously, this is a terrible thing because I don't want to give them any ideas. But I'm going to. There's a true confession. A true confession. All right. Okay, everybody's ready for a true confession. I don't know whether you're ready for it because you know what we call true confessions are not really true confessions. They're kind of phony. Now I want you to look at yourself once and admit that you've done things like this. We were about 12 years old, which is a very yeasty age at this time of year. Oh yes, Esther Jane Albury was changing. Oh indeed. Eileen Akers had already changed. There was a lot of talk in the neighborhood about that. Other things were going on which were incomprehensible to many of us. I had read my first Spicy Detective and had hid it under the icebox down in the basement. Later to be discovered on a fantastic traumatic afternoon, which we will not even talk about at this time. When I went down one afternoon to get a model airplane, my old man was reading it. You don't want to hear about that confrontation, do you? And he looked up at me and he says, "Where did this come from?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Oh?" And he went out to read it. See, and he was reading a story which I had read, which I thought was particularly good. It was about this guy that parachuted into this farm somewhere out in the wilds, and he was being tended to by this magnificent girl who somewhere along the line had torn her clothing because she's on a farm. You know, they tear their clothes a lot out there, and I wanted to, compare notes with but I saw him reading this. It was a fantastic illustration on the left-hand page. I can still see it. He just kept right on reading, and I got my model airplane and went upstairs. That was a moment of revelation. However, these things had all happened at this moment. It was now 12. I was 12. Bruner was 12 and a half. Flick was almost 13. Watts was 11. You're getting the cast of characters. Schwartz was 12 and a half. We all had pimples, see? And we all had eyes for Esther Jane. That's about all. Just eyes. But they were working. We each had in one way or another, we had each read somewhere along the line a kind of Spicy Detective. I never forget that it was, I had an entirely different view. I've never been able to forget Maggie and Jiggs. That was an entirely different view of those two. That was another awful thing. We'll tell about that later, too. Now, I told you to get the kids out of the room. I'm serious. I can imagine a lot of guys are falling out of the front seat of their car, and roaring, hitting their head on the gear shift knob, and the woman next to us, what's he talking about? Well, this is a male program tonight. It's not a woman. I do not know what happens when a woman discovers sex. Not ever having been a woman. No, I do not. I do not know what goes through the mind of 10-year-old girls. And it's not a matter of discovering sex, it's discovering life itself, I guess. Those great, fantastic, unbelievable, pulsing forces which we all know about. Males especially, I suspect. Well, here it is, dark. We are out playing some very innocent game. You know, just throwing a ball over a garage or hollering or hitting each other or something. You know, it's a very innocent game. When like spontaneous combustion, almost as if a fire had been ignited from within, it spread through the 15 of us. Now, we're about 15. Flick, Watts, Schwartz, me, Bruner, Stryker, Martin, and all the rest of these guys. Doesn't matter. It's about 15 of us louts running around out in the back. When one dark form, scurrying along through the alley, chasing the ball, I don't know how to tell you this. Let us put it on this way. Suddenly we became 15 peeping Toms. Now, I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just laying it out. You want to hear the story? So the 15 of us are sneaking around looking at people's houses in small groups. Let us say in small combat platoons, moving like shadows through the bushes. You know, kids are very good at moving in bushes at the age of 12. We were like animals. We had lived most of our lives in the swamps in that area. We were not city kids, really. We really knew how to move. We had spent whole summers sneaking up on sparrows, spatsies, shooting them with BB guns. That takes some sneaking. I'll tell you, you got to know how to move in the bushes, like a shadow. And so we were very, what embarrasses me is that we were exceptionally good peeping Toms. Being 12 and being very fast and fleet of foot. And our knees worked beautifully. And we had superb eyes. That's another thing. And rotten minds, which is the worst thing. Well, we're sneaking up and down, in and out of the alleys, and looking in people's houses. Well, at first, it was just a kick looking in the house, like peeking in and looking in somebody's kitchen in the dark. Have you ever done this? Oh, boy. It's a terrible thing. And then you sneak up and you look into somebody's dining room. You look through the ecru curtains, you know, and it's hot and the wind is blowing, and the people are just sitting in there reading, or the radio's playing. You look in there. You just look. And the darkness envelops you. And that hot summer smoky wind off the lake and through the forest comes drifting out over the swamp, and you get even more wild. And you look, you don't know what you're wild about. It's the clandestine. It's the nocturnal. It's the sneaking in the dark itself that's important. And then somebody says, hey, come here. Come on down here. Let's go to Cloninger's. And then 30 seconds later, 15 pairs of sneaky eyes are surrounding the Cloninger house. All peeking in darkness. We would start out playing Run, Sheep, Run. We would work into hide and seek, and then into that sneaking, peeping Tom. Well, this continued for about 4 or 5 nights. And just like all criminals, we began to feel a little bit, 1, aggressive, 2, overconfident, 3, we wanted more. Terrible thing. These things happen to everybody who tastes the heady fruit of the clandestine. It is inevitable. It is just the way man works. You put it in a test tube, it titrates out. Never works any different, just that way. You give a guy Czechoslovakia, he wants the Sudetenland. You give him the Sudetenland, he wants England. You give him England, he wants Holland. It just works that way. Well, about the 4th or 5th night, on a real hot night, we are drifting in and out, looking in at things, peeking, peering, moving like shadows through the darkness, when we hit the jackpot. The jackpot. There was a house way down at the end of the block, a family that nobody hardly knew. And the 15 of us are drifting in and out of the hedges, over the fences, and behind the garages, when one of the guys says, look! It was the double jackpot on a hot June night. with millions of mosquitoes biting and gnawing away, and the smell of the lake, and that flickering red of the fires of hell over there in the blast furnaces playing with those skies. It was the double jackpot. Everybody's looking at me saying, "What did you see?" You know what we saw. The 15 of us, 12 years old. It made Spicy Detective seem like greasy kid stuff. And we're lurking in the bushes. And we're sweating. Wild. Back and forth we go. And then we quietly drifted, with the darkness was off. We drifted off into the dark. And we're sitting back at Flick's house. And we're talking in the darkness, whispering about this thing. And then we began to be very embarrassed with each other. Do you know the feeling of being embarrassed with everybody around you? And everybody has done it or has been involved? It's a funny feeling. One by one goes, I'll see you at the ballpark tomorrow. And they're breaking up. Back to the houses. When I got back into the house, I don't know how to describe the feeling, except that I knew either instinctively or perhaps I even knew rationally that I had become a true lawbreaker, a genuine rotten person. But I didn't regret it. I don't know how to say this either. I didn't regret it. I would have done it again. I know it. But I came into the house, and there's my mother sitting there. You know, she's doing something with the bath mat of the doily, and my old man is looking at the Sears catalog. My kid brother is flaked out on the daybread. And I come in. I am forever changed. My mother looks up, says, "Where you been?" "We're out playing the guys." And she looked at me, and somehow she knew that something was not right. And I knew that she knew it. I went to bed about an hour later, tossing, turning, sweating. The next day, all 15 of us are out on the ball field. It's a very strange afternoon at the ballpark. A lot of very peculiar plays. All of us were transgressors. What do you think we were doing at 8:30 that night? Back of Flick's garage. We were planning the big campaigns. We had struck pay dirt. Well, it went from bad to worse. We began to pick specific houses, people, and we started to fan out. We began to work in the different neighborhoods. And then about Tuesday, this is about a week after we started, there is a note in the Hammond Times. It says, "Police have been alerted against a band of peeping Toms." Which, we never thought of ourselves as the things the police would be alerted about. And there's a wild consultation. "Hey, did you see? What? Oh, no, that's not us," because we always thought of peeping Toms as great, big, terrible people, you know, that got shot. Guys that were chased up and down alleys, you know, that kind of stuff. Nothing. You know, it's not us. We're just out playing around. We're playing. We always liked to think it was an extension of the games that we had been playing. Do you understand what I'm saying here? We kept telling ourselves that it was a game. It was not. We were not really doing this. It was part of Run Sheep Run. It was part of hide and seek. We read the piece in the paper on Tuesday. What do you think we were doing Tuesday night? You guessed it. Well, about 10 o'clock Tuesday night, I am working one end of the street with about 9 other kids. And down at the other end of the street, there's about 9 other kids working in and out of the bushes, sneaky little shadows, the smell of the lake hanging over everything, the mosquitoes humming, a few grandmothers sitting out on the front porches, and you can hear the swings going, and we're working the neighborhood. When all of a sudden, you can hear from like 35 directions, sirens. And there was a loud shouting down at the end of the street, people running around with flashlights, and fly out of the basement. We fly out of the bushes. We fly out from behind the garages. You could see kids coming out from all directions, running around. And all of us are sort of drifting around, hollering, you're it, Charlie. Hey, you're it. Oh, hey, you're it, Charlie. You're it. Hey, oh, hey,